Welcome back, or if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the Media Literacy Guidebook. Originally, I was going to begin with exploring visual literacy for this next episode, but first I'd like to address something from the previous video. I've gotten some feedback from you asking for further direction on the definition of media literacy, and I'd like to take a moment to discuss what's called the 5 core concepts. For this video, and all going forward, we're using the Center for Media Literacy's definitions for media literacy. Check the down there part for all of this information, plus more if you need additional context. The CML highlights these 5 concepts. 1. All media messages are constructed. 2. Media messages are constructed using a creative language with its own rules. 3. Different people experience the same media message differently. 4. Media have embedded values and points of view. 5. Most media messages are organized to gain profit and or power. So let's go ahead and start breaking each of these down. Number 1. Who created this message? We have to understand that media is built in a similar fashion as buildings are. That is to say, a plan is made, materials are gathered, and everyday people get paid to do a variety of jobs. So when we watch the news, read a political tweet, play games with political messages, we have to first understand this. It's an experience carefully crafted by someone, or a team of someone's, and it was captured, edited, and a lot of talented people put it together. You might think, well, yeah, of course, but it's something that's often overlooked. Media doesn't just happen. Very deliberate choices are made to create what we consume. So, for example, if some words are spoken, others are edited out. If one picture is chosen, others have been left out. If one piece of B-roll is selected, others are rejected. But as the final consumers of the media, we, as the audience, don't get to see what the different options were, nor do we get any reasons why they were rejected. We just see the end product. So as a result, media is very much constructed by a handful of people, and that small handful of people dictate what becomes normal for everyone else. Now, because of this, media isn't usually questioned and gets taken for granted as the truth. Media itself isn't real, not really, but it affects people in real ways because we take and make meaning for ourselves and for others out of whatever we've been given by those who create that meaning. Now, whether or not this created media is successful depends on its supposed naturalness. We tend to stay away from media that looks fake, reality TV shows aside. Truthfully, though, it's all fake. And yes, that does include the news. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't enjoy media or try to learn from it, but it does mean that we need to create distance from what we consume in order to ask questions about it. Number 2. What creative techniques are used to attract my attention? This question leads into format of a media message, or how it was constructed. We're talking words, color, music, camera angles, movement, perspective, and the like. So let's consider this. You need to notice, truly notice, how media is created. Humans are naturally visual creatures, so a lot of our media comes to us visually. It's vital to learn the basics of what we call visual communication. This includes concepts like lighting, composition, camera angle, editing, props, body language, symbols used, and more. Once we learn these basics, we can learn how the use of these techniques influences the various meanings that a message is trying to send us. And when we have a better understanding of how visual language works, it helps us to A, become less susceptible to media manipulation, and B, increases our enjoyment of the media that we consume. Another benefit of learning these techniques is that, in turn, we become better media creators ourselves. The example CML uses is that of a writer. Writing improves your reading skill, but also your appreciation for good writing. In other words, the best way to understand how media is created is to create some of your own. Make a video, put together a website, participate in a game jam, whatever floats your boat. We can become better media creators through our analysis of what makes media effective. This is another way of looking into visual literacy, which we will explore in the next couple of videos. Number 3. How might different people understand this message differently? What? Okay, this might be a bit confusing, so let's break it down. How do you interact with the media in your life? As you think about that, I need to define what a text is for the purposes of this section and going forward. When we talk about the text of something, it's not necessarily written. The text of a media message is any cultural work that can be taken as a whole. So, for example, the text of a book would be, well, the entire book. But text can also be a video game, an album, a song, a movie, a let's play, whatever. You with me so far? See, we're constantly trying to connect what we see, hear, and read with everything else we know, including our lived experiences. No two people are going to watch the same movie or hear the same song on the radio. Not really. Each person consuming media is going to bring with it a unique set of life experiences. Age, gender, race, sexual orientation, education, cultural upbringing, religion, and so on. When you apply these to the text, or combine it with the text, each person in turn is going to create their own unique interpretations of it. Everybody, even young kids, try to make sense of what they consume based on their life experiences. Encountering multiple interpretations of a text can really help us understand each other. It can build respect for different cultures, build an appreciation for minority and divergent opinions, and help us better understand each other's perspectives. It helps to consider that our similarities are also important in understanding how media creators target different segments of the population in order to influence their opinions, or, more likely, to sell them something. And that something isn't always a physical product, it could be an idea. The more we question what we and others are experiencing around us, the more prepared we are to evaluate the message the text is sending, and we can choose to accept it or reject it. Number 4. What lifestyles, values, and points of view are represented in or omitted from this message? All text, all media, carry subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, messages about who and what is important. There is no such thing as a value-free media, and by its nature, there can't be. Let's dive a little deeper into this. So we now know that all media is constructed, and because of that, choices have to be made. These choices reflect the values, attitudes, and points of view of the people who are making the messages. This can include decisions like how old a character is, what their gender is, what their race is. Those in turn can be mixed with lifestyles, attitudes, and behaviors that are portrayed, alongside a selection of setting and the actions and reactions in the plot. These are all just some of the ways that values are what's called embedded in the text. Even news has embedded values. The organization decides what stories go on, what stories go first, how long they are, what kind of coverage they get, for example, whether or not it's a headline or a side story, what kind of pictures and media are chosen to represent it, and so on. It's an unfortunate reality that sometimes media creators can be careless and turn a generalization, what CML calls a flexible observation, into a stereotype. While we should expect that creators strive for fairness and balance between a variety of ideas, viewpoints, and perspectives, that's not always the case. So to that end, it's also important to know how to locate alternative sources for entertainment and news, and to be able to evaluate alternatives for those embedded values as well. Hey, I never said any of this was easy. If you take only one thing away from this video, let it be this. Values of mainstream media typically reinforce and so affirm the existing social system. Ideas that challenge long-standing assumptions, stereotypes, or common beliefs have a real difficult time getting airplay or even acknowledgement. And unless challenged, old assumptions can both create and perpetrate stereotypes, which limit our understanding and appreciation of the world and all of the nuances and possibilities of humanity. Having the skills to question what we consume and rationally identify both plainly seen and embedded values in a text, whether that be from entertainment or news, means that we're more likely to have critical decision-making to accept or reject the overall message. So, let me give you a couple of examples. Are all men emotionless? Are all women emotional? Are all black people violent? Are all fat people lazy? Are all gay men camp? Are all poor people uneducated? These, and many other examples that we can both think of, are very common messages being sent to us via the media. How are these messages affecting people different than you? How do they affect you? Do you accept or reject these messages? Why? Number 5. Why is this message being sent? In other words, what's the motive or purpose of a text or media message? And to what end? Was this influenced by money, ego, ideology? In order to better respond to a message, we need to see beyond the basic motives of media, which is informing, persuading, or entertaining. An important takeaway is that much of the world's media was developed first as money-making enterprises. Today, they continue to function as commercial businesses. I want you to consider this. Newspapers and magazines, such as they still exist, consider their layouts with advertising first. They have to. Advertising is what keeps them financially viable. The same applies to internet and TV programming. Commercials and ads, assuming you're not using an ad block plugin, are pretty commonplace. What's being lost in translation here is that it's not only the products being sold to us. We're, the audience, are being sold to the advertisers. Ultimately, the purpose of TV shows, magazine articles, internet videos, free music service with paid upgrades, whatever, is the following. 1, to create an audience, and 2, to put them in a receptive mood. So when this mood is established, the network, publisher, content creator, whoever, can sell time or space to sponsors to advertise products. This is known as renting eyeballs. Hey, did I mention I have a Patreon? When I was an undergrad, I had to take a required media management course. Among other things, one of the lessons you have to learn is how sponsorships and advertising works in order to make any kind of money. Sponsors pay for the time to show a commercial, based on the number of people the network predicts will be engaging in it. Did you know that they also get a refund if numbers are lower than promised? You're not the priority. The advertiser is. When we take the time to explore the purpose of a message, we also learn about media ownership, as well as the structure and influence of media institutions in our world. I'm going to show you now a couple of quick graphs. There's a link in the below there part if you want to see them in full context. Did you know that only a handful of companies control nearly everything you see, hear, and consume? What does that mean for alternative perspectives? Who's being served by this? The public? Private institutions? Organizations? The government? The status quo? How does all of this fit into profit for the small percentage of people at the top of these institutions and organizations? Finally, we need to understand that the internet is both the great equalizer and a hot informational mess. More than ever, corporations, groups, and individuals like me and you have relatively ready access with the tools to create and also to persuade others to particular points of view, positive or negative. I'm doing this right now. With all of the information out there on the internet, it provides us with many, many reasons to be discerning with what we consume. We need to be able to recognize propaganda, verify sources, interpret rhetoric, and be able to distinguish legitimate websites from fake, hate, or hoax information. So, one more time, those 5 questions are: 1. Who created this message? 2. What creative techniques are used to attract my attention? 3. How might different people understand this message differently? 4. What values, lifestyles, and points of view are represented in or omitted from this message? And 5. Why is this message being sent? Whew. Okay, that was a lot to take in, but it's important information to have if we're going to start understanding media literacy. And you have to remember that every single creator, myself included, are trying to get you to see and accept the messages that we hand to you. Question everything has become kind of a jokey meme these days, but it sticks around for a reason. Take the time to question what media you consume and what media you like. Consider the messages, consider the techniques. Is anybody profiting from it? Is it helping you? Does it harm others? To what end is it needed? From this video on, I'm going to try to recommend further reading or watching to help supplement the topics we discuss. Today's recommended watching is Noam Chomsky's The 5 Filters of the Mass Media Machine. In it, Democracy Now!'s Amy Goodman narrates the 5 ways in which, according to Chomsky, the media operates: ownership, advertising, the media elite, flack, and the common enemy. We'll touch on these gradually as we progress through the series, but it's a fantastic overview of some of what we discussed today. I highly recommend giving it a watch. That concludes today's lesson. I'll see you again for our next video, which will dive right into visual literacy. Thank you for watching. Whew, okay, so we hit a little bit of a longer video with this. I suspect most videos going forward are probably going to be about this length or more, so I hope you're in for some good old education, because that's my jam, and with any luck, it's yours too. Big thank you to those who sponsor me on Patreon. It does help me quite a bit. Obviously, economic times are hard for everybody, but if you like what you see and want to see more, please consider supporting the Patreon. It does help me out quite a bit, especially since right now this is the only work that I'm doing. Don't forget, too, that you can find me on Twitch. I stream every Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Saturday and Sunday, I stream at 1 p.m. EST. Monday, I stream at 5 p.m. EST. It's a very sort of adults-only crowd. We talk about politics, and we play games, and, we have all sorts of fun. Feel free to drop by. All right, that's enough shilling for me. Make sure to check out the likes, do the subscribes, share it with your friends if you like it. And I'll see you next time. Thank you for supporting the channel, and thank you again for watching. You take care.